Get started. I'll call the August meeting of the Inlet and Beach Protection Board to order. We'll go ahead and call the roll. Chair Vicki Myers here. Vice Chair Mike Pearson.
Here.
Rhonda Dixon.
Here.
Richard Rice emailed that he is unavailable today. Dean Thomas.
Here.
Okay. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes of the July 2nd meeting in your packet. Did everybody have a chance to review those?
Yes.
I'd entertain a motion to approve those unless there are changes.
I make a motion to approve them.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the July 2nd minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That was a unanimous vote to approve the July 2nd minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting July 24th?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of the July 24th meeting unless there's any amendments, corrections? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was another unanimous approval of the minutes of the July 24th meeting. Okay. Public comments. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, moving right along. Okay, Fran, you're up next on our agenda.
Okay,
Did you have a chance to catch your breath?
yes,
Good.
what's that?
Just, if you want to stand up, you look like you're trying to figure out if you want to stand or not, whatever makes you comfortable.
Well, kind of, I guess we're here just for Lockapolly Inlet, and there's basically three different projects. Okay.
Thank you.
There's the Lockapolly Inlet crossing, which is, thanks, the inlet crossing project that's slated for this winter. I haven't seen the bid package out yet. The bid package should be out here soon. David, have you seen anything, or Christie, or?
Haven't seen anything yet.
I think that the next quarterly meeting up in New Bern. I think it's next
It's
week.
next week on Wednesday.
So that's going to be the near term, pretty big deal where historically, and then I read the minutes, everyone's pretty much caught up. Right around 2009 with the economic stimulus, the Corps had more money. Basically, the Corps was doing the minimum possible to keep the AIWW open. And then all of a sudden they had some more money, and then they opened it up and they used that bend widener, and they put a lot more sand on the east end, and East End was better. And that's why the East End does look a little better than it did, in the 2000s. Now it looks better because there's usually every other year they're putting, an extra 80,000 cubic yards of material on the beach. And so the town, and we noticed that, and we said, hey, that's a really good idea, using that bend widener and trying to maximize that material. And then along that same time, the state got their funding involved, and so pretty much now, every single time you do that Lockwood Folly Inlet crossing, you can maximize it versus the Corps just, minimal 50,000 cubic yards. We just want to keep it, the AIWW navigable. Now they can take a lot more sand. And it's really worked well for the East End here over the last, ever since about 2009. And so we really need to continue that. And Oak Island is trying to, kind of lay claim to that inlet, and it's really, this inlet's a lot different than, and they've had issues with Bald Head Island where they're trying to share sand, and obviously the Wilmington Harbor, the Federal Navigation Channel, the material's kind of getting lost on both sides. So I can see how Bald Head would say, no, that's our sand, and Oak Island would say, no, that's our sand. But here, and Shallotte, and pretty much from here down, the east end of Holden Beach is the downdrift beach, where, sooner the sand moves back and forth this way and that way, and depending on the waves, but sooner or later it's going that way. It's going towards the west. And so Lockwood Folly Inlet is, the east end of Holden Beach is the downdrift beach. And those are the beaches that can get really harmed if they start messing around. Even, talks of jetties or, see, a terminal ground was a little different. We had it going, we realized that. And, that's not on the discussion anymore, but, we gotta be really careful of that, because even if you did a big jetty out to deep water, the east end could get hurt. And then, obviously, even just looking at Shalot and the east end of Ocean Isle, there's, 2,000 feet of sandbags, like along that shoreline. And a lot of that some of that can be attributed to the kind of some mismanagement of Shalot Inlet. And so what we don't want to see is, 2,000 feet of sandbags along that shoreline. And so, we need to kind of make sure that Holden Beach stays, at the top of the line when the nourishments occur there. And, every other year has been working out and maximizing that amount of fill. And so now all of a sudden, if they said, okay, wait, we need a sharing agreement, and this county appears to think, oh, that's great, you guys need to share, that would be every 4 years that would be getting material, and that shoreline can't take that. We can't wait 4 years. So, it's really important for that Lockwood Inlet Crossing project to really kind of maintain. The town has worked with the Corps to kind of maintain that status quo. And, right around 2009 or so, we tweaked it enough to make it sustainable, we believe. But we can't really, that's kind of like the minimum for sustainability on that east end. And so, that's really important that we know that, and that we know that this is not the same inlet that, Oak and Bald Head Island have fought over. This is, the same where the Corps set up that system when they said, okay, this is the least cost alternative. Lockwood Folly goes to the east end of Holden Beach. Shalot goes to the east end of Ocean Isle, and so forth down the way. And they're proposing kind of just to change everything, where I think most of the inlets around here are we've got a system, and even it's arguably, I think, Ocean Isle would say, yeah, okay, we're good with our project, Shalot, Ocean Isle. And, now they're just talking about kind of changing up the whole system, and if they did that, it would create some chaos, we think, at ATN. The project that's occurring right now, the Murden project with that nearshore disposal. So now where the little shallow hopper, it's not little, it's big in most cases, but for dredges it's little. Where it was originally going to remove 6,000 cubic yards of material. It sounds like now they upped that to 30,000 cubic yards of material. And that'll help with the outer shoal. And sometimes, in previous times, and we've done this before with David and Christie, the Merritt, that side casting dredge, it was in dry dock for, I don't know, a year and a half. It seemed like a really long time. But, it's coming back now, but then they keep delaying it. But anyway, when they're using that Murden project, actually the closest spot for it to drop near shore material is the east end of Holden Beach, in about 10 to 15 feet of water. And we actually did the pre-survey and post-survey in 2015, and then in 2017 they did it. It's some near shore disposal in 10 to 15 feet of water. And then we surveyed it, and you could see in the survey, you could see like mounds of material, maybe like 2 feet high. And it was always 25 or 30,000 cubic yards of material, and it was offshore. Theoretically, it's the best place to put it, but it still doesn't have a really good direct impact on the beach health. So, the Oak Island wants to try it, and they wanted to spend some money on it and try that project. The effectiveness of it is I guess you can see, but it's just not like it's not the same thing as putting sand on the beach. And so, we were okay. We were open to allowing Oak Island to try that. But, so I guess we'll just continue to follow that. But then as soon as the Merritt comes back online, and the Merritt's that sidecaster, the Merritt is kind of the Corps' preferred vessel maintain a lot of these inlets. Its production rate's a little higher than the little smaller, than the Currituck and the Merton, which are the split hull hoppers. And it's got a little shallower draft. So, and I think just a higher production rate, they just prefer to do that, to just kind of open up the inlet. And then the third project, the Lockwood Folly Inlet Outer Ebb Shoal Crossing, that's the one that, we're, very concerned with as well, because anytime that, again, where the east end's the downdrift beach, and this material just works its way down to, all the way down the entire Holden Beach coastline. As soon as you dredge a much bigger channel, that sand the sand's naturally moving around, moving around over that ebb shoal. It takes, a year or two, and we've seen, where the shoals attach, and the shoals can, attach, 50,000 up to 100,000 cubic yards of material onto the beach with a major shoal attachment. And you can see that when you walk along where, there's like undulations along the beach where you can kind of see the shoal is kind of out there. And even at low tide, it's really, quite impressive. We're just going to continue to follow that. We've made our concerns. We've let the county know, and the county's heading this effort up. We let the county know that we're really concerned about this. And, there is a way we think you can make the channel maybe a little bit deeper and wider without really, but if you're going to do that, that material should go into the east end of Holden Beach, because that's where it should go. That's where it naturally would go. And then the county, I guess the county's main focus, or appears to be their main focus in looking at some of the articles and things, is navigation. And navigation is an issue, even for Holden Beach. It's a tough one, because you were trying to balance, beach health with navigation. And so, this larger channel that they're proposing, right now, if they dredge out that channel in, about 3 months, they try to do it when they have funding. And again, now that the state's kind of getting a little more involved, hopefully because obviously there were a few years where they just didn't dredge for like 2 years or a year. They pulled the buoys, and it was really hazardous coming in and out of Lockwood Folly Inlet. But now the state has that fund, where it seems like the maintenance dredging that the Corps likes to do, if they have funding, they have that funding now to keep it open. So, but it's trying to. Navigation is a difficult issue, because obviously, if you go around to the Masonboro jetties and that inlet, it's much easier to go in and out of that inlet. So that's tough. And then the other thing that, so the county is going through this permitting process, and I guess we'll see how it works, because they're trying to cite, records from the 70s that say the channel, you can dredge it out to 12 feet deep when it only gets dredged out to 8 feet deep. So they're going to try to cite some old things from the 70s. But the other kind of wild card out here as well is the Civil War wrecks. And that can really, you can't get anywhere near those. So, it'll be interesting to see, basically they're saying, we can do this, we can do this easily. But, permitting anything like that can be, there can be unseen kind of opposition from other groups. And I don't really see environmentally or anything that, essential fish habitat and that sort of thing. Doesn't seem like any major issues. But, any kind of dredging project near some historic Civil War shipwrecks can be a pretty big issue. And even just, I bet they're going to want a buffer, maybe 500 feet or 500 meters. Some of those, I'm not sure. The State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, is, we have to, every time, we went offshore to do that bar area in Central Reach, and, they're saying we need to do, side scan the entire, 100% coverage. You need to look for every kind of Civil War wreck. You need to do, 20 meter minimum, it was maybe 25 meter minimum spacing. And then for the other, we had to do like a 500 meter buffer And that wasn't the SHPO related, but that was kind of environmental, but we'll just have to see how that works out and just follow it closely. But I would imagine that they're saying that project's gonna happen, not this winter, but the following winter. And that could happen, that's reasonable, but, it could be longer, depending on kind of how they run into some things. And then, again, it does seem like the county's main priority is navigation, when, basically Holden Beach has, I would say the Holden Beach's main priority is beach, but then obviously navigation is an important priority for that as well. So that's kind of for the three different projects that, we're just, following. And it seems like now that the state has that dredging fund set up and it's flush with money, it seems like most of the communities along the coast are trying to find navigation projects where they can put that material on the beach, because the state will pay 2/3 of that. And I think that's kind of what's happening here with the Lockwood Folly Inlet project, where this project would not be cost effective. The Outer Shoal project, the Outer Shoal dredging, would not be, it's the whole $4 million project. It's about $20 a cubic yard, it looks like, for the material to be placed. And that's that's expensive. It's not outrageously expensive, but it's really not economical if you didn't have that state fund there. And so, again, we gotta watch out, just because, all that dredging is, 2/3 off, we've gotta just kind of make sure that we're not, we keep focused on, what we need to kind of focus on, without trying to look for just cheap material that could detrimentally impact the east end.
Yeah.
And so I guess that was kind of the three projects, and kind of, working with the town and just coastal engineering, from a coastal engineering perspective, kind of looking at that, and seeing successes and failures on nearby inlets, and just kind of the dangers of some of these projects, the potential dangers to the downriver beach. So.
Can I paraphrase for a second? I was really confused coming in here about whether we had 2 projects or 3 projects after reading everything. So I understand the first smaller project that started out at 6,000 cubic yards and then went up to 30. I go to the mouth. That's where they're dredging the mouth of the inlet, is that correct? They're coming along the intercoastal waterway and just doing kind of the mouth of it, is that?
I think they're actually doing the mouth. When I think of the mouth, I think of like the inlet throat that's directly in between.
Right.
That's actually usually naturally pretty deep. If we look, I don't have the most recent core survey. We can.
Okay, but either way, the first
usually,
project is the smaller one.
Yeah, and that's usually the outer ebb shoal, where low tide, when you walk the beach, you can kind of see boats going in and out.
Right.
The shoals, during ebb tide, the water floods out from the inlet, and that's kind of that's that ebb shoal out there where the sand settles down. And then obviously there's a flood shoal, and that's inside, and that's where the Lockwood Folly Inlet Crossing project is. At flood tide, the sand gets pushed in, and then it lays out and creates a flood shoal. So basically, there's the ebb shoal out on the outer coast, and then there's a flood shoal inside, and then the inlet throat itself is actually pretty stable and deep. And that was the other thing, like the one article talked about how the flushing of Lockwood Folly River would improve with this outer ebb shoal dredging project, and it really wouldn't. Lockwood Folly River is it kind of creates its own little inlet, but they did show that Eastern Channel dredging that there was some improvement in the Eastern Channel. It was localized. But to really kind of say that dredging project is going to improve water quality in the Lockwood Folly River, we're really doubtful of that, just because the system is in equilibrium now and it's working, and it's not going to, there's no danger in that throat being cut. And I'm digressing though.
I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
still- I'm
Clearly,
still-
what the
it's
three
the outer edge
projects
shoal.
are.
It's the outer edge shoal, they're dredging the outer shoal where all the buoys are,
Okay,
and then they're going to just drop that material over on Oak Island.
right, that's the 30,000
But-
cubic yards.
But the thing is, the problem here is that when the core, there can be little troublesome hotspots along the AIWW, and they might come and hit them really quickly too. So they could do, because even the 2015 project, you can go to like marinetraffic.com and you can just follow these boats, and you can see where they go and hit the spots, and they were concentrating on the outer shoal, but then, for a day or two, they would go and clean up the AIWW, there were some trouble spots and so it's the main focus is that outer edge shoal for the small 30,000 cubic yard.
Okay,
project.
and then project number 2 is basically the sidecaster that comes in and just dredges. Is that project number 2?
No, that's project number 2 that is actually related to project number 1, the sidecaster.
Okay,
That is just basically to maintain navigation on
Right.
the outer edge shoal. Basically, where you're talking about the inlet throat.
mm-hmm,
The inlet throat, there's something called the U.S. Coast Guard Colregs line, the collision regulation line. And anything seaward of that, you need the regulations are really intense, where most dredgers have to be ocean certified and that sort of thing. But they don't have the little specialized core dredges that, the sidecaster and the split hull. They're actually the specialized ones that are small, but can also work in the ocean, seaward of that Colregs line. A lot of the other little dredges that do the WW, they're smaller and they're not ocean certified. And that's why, and it's interesting that Dare County is kind of going to build a small dredge like one of these, and this is kind of what the state has wanted all along, or like kind of a state-owned and operated small dredge that could work seaward of the Colregs line, but was small enough to just basically do what these specialized core dredges are. So, it would be great if I know that they want that thing, its home base will be Oregon Inlet, right, or Wanchese. But, if that thing could work some of the other inlets in North Carolina, you'd think it should, because it is state money, even though I guess the county, I'm not sure all the details of it. But if it's not working Oregon Inlet, it should hopefully be able to work some of these other inlets at cheaper prices. But
so I understand what project number 1 is.
and then I digress
And
again.
project number 3 is
Yes.
the large project with the 200,000 cubic yards. That's the larger, more
Yes.
costly,
Yes, so- yes.
200,000 plus. What is project number 2?
Project number 2 is the Lockwood Folly Inlet Crossing project that's been happening pretty much every 2 years, where they just dredge, the flood shoal,
Okay,
and then they put that material with
The light bulb
pipeline
just went
dredge,
off,
yeah, and the
okay.
cutter head dredge, and they set the pipeline up and
Pipeline up and do that. So the
Yeah.
third project and the larger project is in addition to the Lockwood Folly Inlet crossing?
Yes.
And that's the deeper, wider dredging?
Yeah, that's the deeper, wider
Got it.
outer ebb shoal. So those are my 3, and then the merit that you were talking about that's kind of just the ongoing
Maintenance.
navigation that, and as soon as that gets back online, that is the Murden project, which is at 30,000 cubic yards, that might go away, except for now that the state does have contributing funds. Basically, the Corps does the least cost option, and most of the time that merit is the least cost option. But now that the state can contribute funds, the Corps is willing to use the Murden or the Currituck, which are the shallow draft hopper dredges, to do that near shore disposal. But again, that near shore disposal, how effective and beneficial is it? It is better than the sidecaster, but it's hard to really quantify its benefits to the shoreline. But in theory, it's the best way to do it, but it's just the in terms of just significant benefits of putting a 2-foot mound of sand in 13 feet of water, 2,000 feet offshore, and theoretically, that should move onshore, but it's just a small amount of material, and it could take a few years, and it's just, you know, with the noise of the weather systems and things like that, it kind of can get lost.
So to summarize, what you're saying is that we're okay to let that project go over to Oak Island because it's of negligible benefit to Holden Beach. If it came to us, we're fine with it because it's cheap sand, and eventually we think that it does append to our beach or becomes incorporated into our sand system, but we're okay with it going over, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a minor benefit, and we've measured it, and we've tried to figure it out, but the only problem is that, because it is such a minor benefit, we're not sure it's going to help out Oak's issue, and so Oak's gonna still come hard for the other sources of sand, and that's where, so hopefully that works for them.
I mean, the thought is that probably it's not going to append to their beach where they think it's going to. It's gonna come right back into our inlet, correct?
You know, eventually, yes, eventually it will. And again, but we're just, when you're talking about 30,000 cubic yards of material, it's just so small. I mean, even, you know, the town put, you know, the 1.3 million cubic
Right.
yards of material out there. And then the Lockwood Folly Inlet Crossing project, that's usually nowadays, now that they're maximizing that material, anywhere from like 120 to 180,000 cubic yards of material. So then when you're talking about 30,000, it's just, it's kind of minor.
But given that Oak Island is pressing hard for all three
Yeah.
of these projects to go to Oak Island, all three of the projects, the sand to go over to Oak Island, does that not set a precedent for the first one to go over there? So it
Yeah.
hasn't gone over to Oak Island in a long time.
Yeah, and you know, and even when Oak Island, you know, talked about their long-term plans, they're looking for, you know, 15 or 30 million cubic yards of sand. They're looking for some crazy amount of sand because obviously they've got a big shoreline and they need to do big projects. You know, that's why, you know, the Lockwood Folly Inlet Crossing is so, it's such a nice little, after kind of getting this set up, it's just a nice little project where there's a small amount of material on a small section of beach, and it just works. It keeps the navigation open, it keeps that little beach protected. Trying to use that little piece of, that little amount of sand to try to, you know, they haven't really nourished their beach in years and a major nourishment. So there's a deficit of, you know, millions of cubic yards of material, and now they're trying to, you know, just try to Band-Aid it. When they're doing that, the East End again is becoming vulnerable, and we don't want to, you know, they've got kind of sandbags on the beach where they're in that little hot spot area where they want to put material. And, you know, Ocean Isle's got sandbags on the beach. North Topsail Beach has got sandbags on the beach. We don't want to go. We don't want sandbags on the beach. It's not a nice thing, and no one wants that. And so we really have to work hard to make sure that East End is getting the attention it needs.
Anybody else have questions?
I do. It almost seems like that we were down in the number 5 on the agenda there, but can you talk about, you know, what you talked to
I'm
the
sorry.
commissioners,
I
the
should've,
commissioners the other night?
Yes,
about
of course. I have those.
The beach
results right
monitoring
here.
report?
Yes. I just kind of started talking. Here we go. The annual beach monitoring report. So the nourishment, it's almost been about a year and a half since the material got placed. It was, including both projects, about 1.5 million cubic yards of material. We do, you know, surveying transects every 1,000 feet along the entire coastline of Holden Beach from inlet to inlet. And it was really interesting that we did our volume calculations and we came up with a gain of 440,000 cubic yards of material. And so I had my younger guys doing this, and I was like, wait a second, how did you get where did this 440,000 cubic yards of material come from? They didn't do any nourishments. There shouldn't be that creation of material. And obviously we've seen in the past where there has been, usually a lot of times there's maybe around, we're hoping for around 0, or like, you know, so basically we can kind of account for all the material without losing much. But a lot of times, like in 2015, you lost 11,000 on the beach, but in 2016, we saw a loss of 360,000 cubic yards. So basically, this 440 didn't make any sense. It kind of stood out. And then we looked at the data, and when we do our calculations, we run out to about 1,500 feet offshore to the -12 below mean sea level contour, and that's where we kind of stop our volume calculations. So we go there to the upper beach. And we found that actually Matthew had knocked some material out of that farther than that 1,500 feet, that 12-foot contour, and that material has moved back on shore now, which was really good, really surprising. So as the upper beach, when we did the contour, when we build the beach, we know you're going to build it just because of the way the dredgers and the bulldozers work. You got to build it kind of straight and flat, and you don't really make it the natural slope. It's more of a little steeper slope, and then you just let nature kind of create its own slope. And so that's kind of equilibration. And so we have seen some equilibration where the ocean waves are reworking that slope. And so when you rework that slope, you are losing upper beach. And so we have seen it from the dry beach out to around the surf zone, which is -5 feet, we say. It did lose material up and down the beach. But then we look from the 5-foot contour down to the -12 contour, it gained a significant amount of beach, almost 500,000 cubic yards of material as that grows. So and that near shore, that's, we don't think about it that much, and the material doesn't move as much as it does just on a day-to-day basis out there that it does here. But any kind of big storm, it will move around. So it was a nice surprise, actually, to see that the beach, and obviously this is, we're hoping to get 10 to 15 years out of this nourishment, and the beach is doing well, and we're on track to hopefully not have to and then not have to do another one for another 10 to 15 years, and of course, but at the same time we do want to have like an offshore bar area ready, like a permit ready, in case there's another hurricane, and when FEMA kind of steps in and helps out with mitigation. And so that's kind of just like the town got the Central Reach project permits in 2012, but the project didn't get built until 2017. But so from the annual beach monitoring report, we're still working on the report, kind of finalizing it, kind of writing it up. But we have done the volume counts and everything. Since we get the survey data, we usually try to work through those, and they're positive, they're good. But and of course, the only section of beach that did lose material was the east end. And the east end, so everything kind of saw kind of a gain from that Station 40, which is right around Blockade Runner West. We saw like a good kind of increase in material when we're going out the whole way. But the east end, we lost some. And it just, the east end lost about 70,000 cubic yards. And so right there, you say, the nourishment, you're losing about 70,000 cubic yards of material, and every 2 years they put in, 120 to 180,000 cubic yards. It's working out. But if we start, they say, okay, wait, you can only do that every 4 years because you got to share it with us 50-50. That east end is going to be vulnerable. So, and that was going back into the life of volume.
Fran, generally speaking, does the loss on the east end, that's about what we see on an annual basis?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
we haven't seen any, other than when placement takes place, we haven't seen any accretion on the east end, have we?
No. With the Central Reach project, actually, no, it's about the same.
Okay.
Because even, with the, not just equilibration, but spreading, that Central Reach project, that material can spread, it's going to spread, the net transport is to the west, but it can spread to the east as well, especially right after the project completion. So it could benefit a little bit, but even then, considering the spreading benefits of Central Reach, it still lost that amount of material. So it's an erosive kind of thing, and even you know, there's been the stuff about channel alignment things, and that actually the channel alignment is favorable right now over on the Holden Beach side, according to Dr. Clear and some other reports, where, and we modeled it, we saw like a minor benefit to having the channel kind of run along the Holden Beach side, but it's not going to change anything. It's pretty minor. So, but yes.
So it leads me back to a question, not just for you, Fran, for everybody. So, other than what's already being done, what can we do to make sure that we get the sand from Project 2 and Project 3? How can we help to make sure, whatever it is, go to the county? I mean, you know, if you read these articles,
Yes.
perception is reality.
Yes.
And you read these articles, and if I didn't know better, I'd say, well, Oak Island's getting all the sand this year.
Yep.
In the next 3 projects, Oak Island's getting all the sand. How do we step up and say, no, you know, and here's the reasons why that shouldn't happen, and here's the reasons why we need, how do we help facilitate that? Other than what's already being done, not just that, yeah.
Well, I think that the most important thing is to develop the town's position officially, which is part of your agenda in
The
item
resolution?
5.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that goes toward stating the town's position
Okay.
on, you know, those specifics.
I think we're segueing into item 5 here.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Kind of moving on there, I think we've just reviewed our 3 pending projects. So everybody's clear on these 3 pending projects. Is everybody clear?
No, I'm not totally clear. I'd like to see a diagram. Where's the sand coming from? Where's it going to? Here's,
I
Do you have old
Can you just-
PowerPoints from,
Yeah, can
I
you
don't
draw
know,
it?
but I've-
You've got a whiteboard over here. Could you just maybe draw it? Would that be helpful?
think I can draw one.
Hang on.
just a quick one, here's 2, here's 3, here's how many cubic yards are in 1, here's how many are in 2, you know,
We
roughly.
have like a PDF of the last year's annual monitoring report.
Yeah, that's what, I'm still coming up to speed, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look at old reports, and I think that will help me.
Let me go get.
Just a high level would be great. You know,
Okay, stop, don't say anything before it, I'm gonna go get the monitoring report.
But, yeah, yep. You know,
and when you talk about the shoals, it might be good to rough
Okay.
cross-hatch that in, you know, where, when you talk about the
Are you a
outer
good
shoal and the
artist,
inner
David?
shoal.
That's a lame pen.
Right, you guys could probably do this in your, with your eyes closed.
Yep. Yes.
All right.
We have to go to those things like this, sings while he's doing it.
I can do one thing at a time. I'm just what she said.
God, I wish I had my hearing aids.
Can you hear well?
It's like I'm underwater.
Oh.
I can hear, but it's like I'm underwater. I should have gone back and gotten him. I was rushing again.
I've been ready to go since 7:30 with my bag right there by the elevator.
That one is how many cubic yards?
3,000.
And the time frame on that one, is this winter?
Like, I think the next couple months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
September-ish.
Okay,
How many?
September?
My skill
September,
set
yeah.
lies elsewhere.
no, that's
but
perfect. That's what this is what I need.
Yep, that's
Tell me
good.
who's
No,
right.
that's
This is-
right.
this
And that,
is
and that one
generally
is this
speaking-
winter.
Generally speaking,
Yeah,
generally speaking, this is what Fran's referring to as the flood shoal. and-
No, that's just,
I'm
here we go.
sorry, the outer.
Yeah, it's the
outer
ebb shoal.
I call it the bar. Whenever
Yeah.
yeah, the sand, yes.
Coming across the bar.
Yep.
Is my frame of reference. So this is what we're talking about. And then
That is the outer ebb shoal?
That is, yes, the outer.
Outer ebb shoal.
And who decides who gets the sand? The engineers, the Corps of Engineers? I mean, they're deciding that 30K is going to Oak Island? Or is it just because Oak Island went to them and said, we need the sand?
It's because Oak Island went to them, and that they were going to pay, they wanted, basically, the Corps always wants to do the least cost disposal method, and if they do anything above that, then someone else has gotta pay.
Mhm.
And so the Oak Island with the county said, hey, we'll pay that delta from the least cost option. And then least cost option is Holden Beach,
Because it's down.
because it's closer. Basically, it's closer. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
What?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely. Please ask.
So then, the fact that they are going to deposit that 30,000 into Oak Island, that doesn't in any way weaken the argument about the least cost-effective method? Because Oak Island is willing to pay the extra money to get that sand? Because that's what I was concerned about. Are we going on a slippery slope where we're weakening the argument about the least effective cost by allowing it to go there? Even if it's not
I
that,
understand.
even if it's not that effective,
Yeah,
are we
I
making a
understand.
mistake? Are we being penny wise and pound foolish? That's my question.
You're right.
I'll add a comment, and this is my opinion, that regardless of who's paying for it, it's a dollar number. And regardless of the point on whether it, gets in the system and goes up on the beach eventually, this is about a mile before it goes back in the inlet. If you were to put it, somewhere near Amazing Grace, it's 9 miles. That it gets to roll down the beach. So, that's my opinion on the quantitative benefit, my perception, that regardless of who's paying for it, Oak Island paying for a little bit more to go there, it still has a 1 in 8 life cycle for that. But
So did I hear you say we lose like 70,000 every year based on history from our
yes.
east end?
Yes.
And typically every year they're dumping that 30K on our end? Or do they give us a little more? Or
No,
they,
typically, every year, actually, they've been using the merit, which is that side caster, so it just, moves the material about 100 feet one way or the other.
so it stays in the water and we
So
don't
it
get that
stays
much
out
of a
on the
benefit?
edge
Okay, so we're
But
not
typically,
getting,
every other year, they have been piping and pumping 130 to 180,000.
No, they've been doing, we've had that nearshore placement a couple of times,
Yes,
right?
yeah, and here's that image in the last, basically, there's where they dredged the channel, and then they usually try to dump, their rule of thumb is to dump the material 1,500 feet away from the inlet, because they don't want it to go right back in the inlet. So they were dumping it out here, right, actually, kind of off right here, there's the bridge right
okay,
there.
so if they do it every 2 years and we get 130, that's basically keeping us stable, as you
Right, the
alluded to
Lockwood Valley
earlier.
Inlet
Okay.
dredge project basically keeps us whole,
Okay,
right?
I have
When
a
we get
question.
that every
Yeah.
other year,
Yeah,
it basically
yeah.
keeps us whole.
Okay, on this 30,000, what benefit is it to us to let Oak Island have this? I mean, they're willing to throw the bomb in there and just totally blow up the whole thing that's been worked out. So what benefit is it to us to let them have this, other than it's already kind of been decided?
Well, can we answer the question on clarifying what the 3 projects
Okay.
are?
Yep.
Because this is number 1. Okay?
Okay, sorry.
Big
Thank you,
one- The big one, number 2, is wider and deeper, right?
Yeah,
In the throat.
okay,
I thought Lockwood.
Number
no,
two
this
is
is
the
the
crossing.
crossing.
Number
Yeah,
2 is the
that's the-
Lockwood
that's
Valley
the one we
Inlet
gotta
Okay,
There's actually a bend widener here so that when the tugboats come by, that there's a dog leg in the river they can swing out. And that's the one where they take the little hopper dredge and run a pipeline,
The cutter head dredge.
Yeah.
gutter head dredge, I'm sorry.
Sure. Hopper.
Hopper, yeah. I got
typically, but if Oak Island makes the argument they want that sand as well, is that a, pardon?
They want
Yes,
everything.
okay, but
See,
typically when they do that,
And they came at us a couple of years ago, they came at the town, and the town basically said, no, you can't do that, but then they said, we'll do the eastern channel dredging, and the eastern channel, we don't have it here. But they did do, yeah, right, where the Sheep Island, in between Sheep Island and Oak, they did the eastern channel, so they did that, and they got about, I don't know, 130,000 cubic yards or something.
Each time they dug in and dug back
Yeah.
out, just fill back in.
So they hit into, they kind of got borderline into, yeah, the number 2 project, but, now they really want number 2 all of it.
And then number 3, of course, is
The deep and wide.
the water all the way through.
and what's the estimate on that one? Cubic yards?
200,000 at least, it could be up to, 300,000.
And so that one, I heard the time frame for number 3 is next winter, not this coming winter, but the
Exactly.
weekend following. How about number 2? What's the time frame
That's
for
this
that?
winter.
This
Both-
winter.
Both number 1 and 2 are this winter.
Yeah, one
Number
is,
1 is like September,
one is in
correct?
September.
Yeah.
This next month?
Yeah, and then number 2, the Corps should be issuing their bids, their bid package, because they group that with, inlet crossings up and down the North Carolina coast. And, but usually there'd be like 4 or 5 of them, at least, to try to, to more of an
And-
economy of scale.
And Oak Island will only be eligible for number 2 if they get their permit, correct?
Number 3.
No, they could,
Oh, that's number 3.
Number 3.
yeah, number
Okay.
three, they need to, the number 3, they need like to go through the normal permitting process.
Okay,
But number 1 and number 2, they can kind of just piggyback on core and Holden Beach kind of activities.
okay. So,
I think, to answer, I think both of you had a question a while back, and then we went to drawing, but I think to get back to one answer to your question about what can we do besides the resolution, which shows an intent on our part and what the town's policy is that as David and I were discussing, at the next week's meeting, we plan to really have a talk with the Corps about how we're not real sure that how they started going directly to the county. In the past, they talked to both towns, and then I think it became easier for them just to go to the county because it is located in their jurisdiction, because right then you don't have 2 children arguing with you, right? And-
Right.
And we will have a third person mediator in the middle, and I'll just deal with them. But I think the focus needs to be, you're gonna have to go through the hassle of talking to both of us again, instead of always going to the county, and just put that as our position.
okay. Because if you read the articles, it looks like the county is supporting Oak Island. It looks like it.
Yes.
I don't know if they are, it just looks that way.
Well, and I think it's there, they think, oh, we'll just share 50/50, but that's not, this inlet is not the same as the Bald Head Island, Oak Island thing, and it just appears.
It's a really different,
Yeah, it is.
Channel.
And then, what about Shalom, if they're getting 50/50 here, are we gonna just start complaining and get into a fight with Ocean Isle about 50/50 down there? It creates it's opening a whole can of worms. That I think the Corps has a system, and I think we should just let the Corps continue with their system.
Well-
And if they have, Oak Island needs to look for, there are millions of cubic yards elsewhere.
What we've seen in the press, again, it's my opinion, is an uninformed position on behalf of the county. And one of the best ways of doing, correcting that, of course, is to formally apprise the county of Holden
Where we
Beach
are.
perspective by, getting the commissioners to issue what is in effect a policy statement
Yeah.
by this resolution. I mean, that's the way to do it.
So do
That's
we
the power.
back that up with his data? I mean, his historical data, if we're losing X amount of cubic yards every year, that data would be very relevant to,
It's in here.
It
It's
is
in
in
the
there.
resolution.
to back that up.
Yeah.
My concern is that time is of the essence here with the 30,000 cubic yards going in September and then the Lockwood Valley Inlet crossing this winter.
Does Oak Island not have to have a permit to participate in the inlet crossing dredging?
No,
It was my understanding that they
They
were gonna
did.
hook up.
I thought they did.
hook-
right, the SDI.
Yeah.
Shell draft inlet permit.
Yeah,
The way that, I'll try to answer
There's a
that,
couple different ways. That's one way,
Yeah.
but usually the preferred method.
is through the state's memorandum of agreement that utilizes the shallow draft inlet fund to pass money through to the Corps of Engineers. So in effect, the inlet crossing project, depending on where Oak Island wants to place that sand in relation to the federal authorization, and I'd have to double check to see
Yeah.
if where they want to place it
Yeah.
is in the federal authorization, they could effectively piggyback under the Corps' federal authorization. I haven't,
Similar to what we have done too,
right, and but we've done it both ways.
right?
Yeah, and then it's an interesting thing because the Corps, all the Corps' authorizations, which are pretty much permits, but they usually just refer to them as authorizations, were done back in the 70s. And so a lot of times you ask them, where can I look at that, or can I see this? And they're just like, we got a hard copy, and it just kind of explains it. There's no figure or that sort of thing. Or even we were trying to do the Murden nearshore thing, they were saying, oh, we can't do it any farther west than the bridge. But they didn't have like a figure or something that said that. They're just like, based on kind of what the 70s authorizations were and what we've been doing, this is kind of what we think. And so we're in a kind of a gray area where if the Corps thinks that they can put material on Oak Island in that area, I haven't seen it, but other times they could say, no, we can't do that, we've never done that, there's nothing in our 1970s authorizations that say anything close to that. Other times they're like, yeah, that's a little gray area, we could do that. So I'm not sure, and I know those bid packages are going to, that bid package is going to be out here, and the Oak Island had requested to have like the primary bid, the base bid would be the normal project. And then there would be an alt bid to put the
For the
material on
difference.
Oak, and then they wanted to kind of see what kind of cost differences there were. But we're not even sure they're gonna do that. They usually don't like to do a lot more, that's like more paperwork for them. And they try to keep it minimal, and they kind of have this system set down. But I'm not, can't be sure.
Do we, kind of like a little side question here, do we know what is driving this from Oak Island's? Why are they making war with their neighbor like this? We know that they need 15 gabillion yards of
Yes.
sand. And they want a Band-Aid. Why are they willing to go to war with us over this? Does anybody have an idea? Alan?
They want to get it I'm assuming they want to get it any way they
No,
can. I
yeah,
mean,
and they had a figure that said, okay, the sediment budget where the material that deposits in here in this flood shoal, here's the flood shoal back in here, this is kind of what's dredged.
Yes.
They said half that material from a sediment budget perspective, if you were a geologist, like where'd that sand come from? They said half that material's coming from Oak Island, and half that material's coming from Holden Beach, therefore we own half of that sand. And that's really not, that's, and then they were calling, well, that's back passing. And actually there, you can kind of claim that in some instances, but the majority of cases is like, you put that material on the downriver beach. That's kind of it. But they're trying to almost claim ownership of half of that sand.
and is there any value in making the argument about how long Holden Beach has been paying for and
Right.
maintaining that inlet?
Well, we're arguing about ownership of sand, where that sand came from. We're like, so we should, again, the same thing, where we Shallow Inlet,
Yeah.
half of that sand belongs to Holden Beach. It's a really kind of, just a myopic kind picture and what's been working and like project, needs and things like that. And they're just zeroed in on that. And I think that might just be, a bad taste in their mouth from kind of the Bald Head Island, Oak Island thing where Bald Head actually gets, they get 2 out of 3 nourishments, and Oak and Caswell only get 1 out of 3.
Kind of the Cinderella there.
I don't know. And they said, okay, well, we had a battle on this inlet over here. Let's have a go battle on this inlet. They're just used to battling on inlets.
So David, is the thought that if we bring forward this resolution to the Board of Commissioners, that this will establish a position statement, and would that then go to the county and the Corps?
I would think that what the staff would propose that the commissioners do with this is to use it to inform both the county, the Corps, and the state on what the position, the town's official position is.
Okay.
Now, I'm inferring,
Okay.
what the commissioners would want, but that's just kind of obvious to me is what should be done.
Okay, so,
Because it's real easy to say, we all take half, we take half, if you don't understand how it works.
Right.
And then to go along with that and this resolution that's in front of you, I hope that that's what it attempts to do, is to articulate the town's position on, with some specifics backed up with engineering facts,
so,
current engineering facts.
Yeah, it was weird too, is when we were talking with Oak, they kept referring to, 2014 data and 2015 data, and like some near shore hole that they're hoping that the burden can fill. But then, it was a few years ago, it was pre-Matthew. So it was strange, and so, yeah, we had, it was a good thing that actually the town has been, proactively measuring some of those shorelines on the Oak Island shoreline, and actually it really helped out in this case.
Say that again? So you're doing contours on our island every 1,000 feet. Is there a company doing the same thing on Oak Island now?
We do it
You do it for them?
on
We do a few of them for them,
a few of
the
them.
ones near the La Profali.
Uh-huh.
Yes, because their annual monitoring is, they recently tried to, initiate that, but, 5 years ago, no, they didn't have anything. They had, Dr. Cleary was going down to, doing the dune down to mean low water, and as we've seen that you have to go out into, 20 feet of water.
To get the true picture?
Yeah, to get a true picture.
So his report said they're losing beach, basically, and that's why there's all of a sudden this sand grab?
Yes,
activity?
it seems like that Oak Island hotspot in about 2014, it was so bad where they had to put sandbags down in front of these few properties. And then they did that nourishment, that Eastern Channel project, and put it back on there, and now here again, it's eroding, but actually the latest images were less, they hadn't even eroded, they got to bury those sandbags, and those sandbags aren't even uncovered yet. And so, but, yeah, so that's kind of
Okay,
where that
okay.
project is.
But just to be correct, we've been running a few transects across Oak Island, but it's for our business.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a,
La Profali
yeah,
related.
it's
Right.
Rock Folly Inlet.
Yep.
Right.
okay, so,
It helps us understand what's happening on our
But
side.
it was just a coincidental kind of fortune, it was fortunately for us that it worked out, that this could help in this instance.
Mhm.
okay, so then, moving on, are we ready to move on then to the actual resolution? And we could go through this and make sure that we have everything in there, and we can
Yes,
move on to that?
yes.
Okay, so everybody should have had a copy of that, in their packet. I think there was a copy on the back table for everybody. Did we get one? Christie, I had a couple of questions on here, or changes. Some of them were just clerical, and then I had a couple of questions, and I'm sure everybody else did too. Okay. I had a question just on the first one, the first whereas, we are primarily a barrier island community. We are a barrier island community, so can we just delete primarily?
Well, but you gotta remember, we own two pieces of property on the other side of the river, on the other
But
side.
can we just not confuse the whole situation? We are a barrier island community. Nobody lives over there. Outside of
Is
que-
the actual number 67,000, is that it, or can we round up to 70?
The 67,000 came from some bullet points that Fran sent me,
Yes.
and during
Okay.
the construction of this, so it's based on whatever he says.
Well,
Okay.
you wanna do, well, I'm fine with it, say just approximately. Do you wanna say approximately? I'm, or do you wanna keep it more?
Is that the numbers that will be in this year's beach report, this coming year's beach report?
Yes.
Okay, that was one of my questions.
Okay.
So what did you guys just decide? I heard the question, but
Okay.
are we rounding it up or leaving it the number?
Me personally, I would go with the 67,000 because it's the number, but
Yeah, if that's the real number, then we'll go with that.
Okay. And then those are all rounded to the nearest, 1,000. So I'm not sure we need to, because even that, I guess we could get rid of the little, on the next one, whereas I've lost 35,000 cubic yards of upper beach, where I put in the little approximately sign in front of 35,000. We probably just get rid of that.
okay.
May I ask a question? 67,000, as you've said, is in line with general observations on a yearly basis? It's consistent with what you see yearly, the 67,000?
Yeah.
I would make that point. I would make the
Okay.
point consistent with other, annual historical, consistent with historical observations.
Over X amount of time, could you say? 10 years, 20 years, how long?
I'd leave that up to Fran, what he can justify and how precise you want to get.
Okay.
Amazing Grace is the name of a house. Is there a more official way to?
It's the bright yellow house. I guess
I-
is the address on here?
I always call it Amazing Grace.
Yeah. I think it's, Alan,
can-
what's
we
the
can-
address of Amazing Grace?
We can,
Yeah, that
we
might
can
be a-
look at the address of Amazing Grace.
That might be.
I
make
could,
it-
I'll text. Yeah, okay, good. It's
That's
for
so
sale by
funny
owner
because,
right now.
Nobody would, I'm sure the county commissioners don't know that, but we would all,
We all know exactly what that means.
No,
but-
I know, I
House
know,
to the farthest, the farthest east house, the most easternmost,
Yes.
Property,
easternmost,
house,
easternmost
whatever.
oceanfront house.
residential.
Is it really the easternmost property, though?
Oceanfront house.
Oceanfront house.
That's not, their properties, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
say oceanfront house, or oceanfront structure.
okay.
I had a
That sounds
question
good.
about the, it'd be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th point. And David, you and Chrissy are much more, you've done these for years and years. But I wondered if this should be divided into two separate whereases. So give me your input on this. I just felt really strongly that
Where are you talking
The
about?
fifth
Number five.
whereas, the town of Holden Beach has consistently been the recipient of sand via least cost method of disposal for the AIWW Inlet Crossing Project since 2002, as well as contributing funds to the Ben
Ben
Widener.
Widener.
And I just wanted to point out that we have contributed funds to that, to the inlet dredging for years and years and years, that we have participated in that.
And help to maintain that
We
for,
I just want to get clear in here that, we have historically dredged this inlet, and that, town funds for many years have gone to benefit the county's economy as well as nourish the beach. And I just want to be clear to those commissioners, county commissioners, that we have done this for many years, that we've participated. And, I don't remember Oak Island being there for them. And I just remember many times that we put money in our budget
Yeah,
to
I'd say,
dredge that
yeah,
inlet.
time and money, I think.
Yeah,
time and money, yeah.
No.
you know what I'm saying? You know
Yeah.
the point of, now, I'm sure somebody else can say it a lot more eloquently than I can, but I can remember that money sitting over there and me thinking over here, it's like, I don't really know about this tax money going to dredge out that inlet, but, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, that's my point. Say it more eloquently.
Make that point more prominent, right?
So insert some
Kind of like split
verbiage.
those points, maybe? Yeah,
If you want to highlight that fact, then after the second whereas, where you say if historically received, you would either put it above that, that would become, the one you're talking about would become the second whereas, or it would become the third whereas. Whereas the town of Holden Beach has,
Participated in.
in
Yeah,
historically
I'd say move it to there.
expended town revenues to maintain the navigable waterways of Block of Fire.
yes.
Whatever word you would like.
So we'll inject a sentence, whereas to that effect
Okay.
that
As,
clarifies.
as number 3, right?
Just as a second
A
breakout.
second whereas.
Another
Okay,
whereas
okay.
in addition to that. But to the, I know that the mayor's gonna, genuflect on our visits to Oak Island when we went over and asked them to participate.
That address is 337.
337. I was close.
But, to the monitor, the 337, injecting some verbiage, about that 67,000 cubic yard loss, that's consistent with historical erosion, experience there, historic annual erosion.
Consistent
Some-
with historical observations over X years.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But we are officially saying that we have concerns about the deepening and widening, that we have concerns about the impact on the east end with that, with project, which I call project number 3, but it's really project number 2, right?
That's
No,
the
it is
second
number
where-
three.
It's number 3.
It is 3, okay, okay,
It's the second whereas on the second page.
okay.
Also, I wanted to make sure we included that we continue to plan on this as, that this dredging, we continue to plan on it as evidenced by our town's adopted budgets. That this is our plan, and we continue to do this, and we've shown that we continue to do this because it's in our budgets every year.
It's in our
You know,
budget and it's in our long-term plan
always
because
plan.
we've been doing it every year.
Long-term plan.
Pardon me?
It's in the long-term plan,
Yeah.
and we've budgeted for it accordingly.
Right, long before Oak Island showed up and started acting out, so.
It will be disruptive. In that second whereas on the second page, David, that you pointed out, that's where you're saying that our engineer has concerns. Should we spell out at a high level what those concerns are? it's gonna accelerate the loss of beach, that sort of thing? I mean, do we put some verbiage into that effect?
I don't know. What do you think about
Come-
that? Something?
Keep going, sounds good. Keep going.
I don't, you know, again, I have to turn to Fran to
Yeah,
build
no,
on that.
But, yeah, you keep talking and I like
Well-
that accelerated beach loss.
Can we talk about this for a second before we write anything down? My question is, if we're gonna say that we're concerned about that project and how it might impact the East End, but then if they decide to do it and get everything approved, by the way, we want the sand from it, are we saying that one begets the other? Or so are we saying that we're concerned about erosion on the East End if we do this project, but then if the project actually does happen, whenever it does finally get approved.
Yes.
By the way, we want the sand from that. We don't want that sand to go to Oak
Yes.
Island, and we're justifying that we need the sand now because we may have more erosion on the east end
Yes.
because of it?
Yes?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that will, the primary benefit is navigation, well, the primary, the potential adverse effect will be,
On Holden Beach?
yes, will be
East End.
downdrift erosion. And therefore, that if you're gonna do that project for navigation, that material needs to go to that downdrift beach.
Because of potential risk?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we have to word that.
So you're looking for like loss of beach, loss of recreational beach, loss of storm protection, loss of wildlife habitat, all that stuff, right?
The big three.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are good. Because it's a lot of times, like, when I say something, I might be a little too technical, but, I like, you're boiling it down a little bit better, which I think is, and if you say something that I don't agree with, I'll tell you, but.
Oh, part of it's right here above
Okay,
it.
I know I'm only saying this for I'm sorry, can I talk? I'm a commissioner, can I talk?
No, it's not here.
I know I'm only saying this for the first time, I'm getting a little bit muddled, but, we're putting in that, it's like, we don't like the deepening, widening project because of the risks. And that's fine, but when you go to your resolution, you're only focusing, or you're only stating, now therefore be it resolved, we keep our every other year sand from the inlet, which has been demonstrated. But then I believe there also therefore needs to be resolved that, if there is a decision to take the risk of causing issues because of the deepening, widening project, then the town of Holden Beach will also have to, we need to really be specific here.
Right,
If
I agree.
Because the one resolution is absolute, it's almost like we have two things going on at once. One is, we know what works for us, you can't stop it, we have to every other year get this. The second is another resolution, which is, we believe that there is an increased risk of causing harm to the east end of Holden Beach by going to a deepening and widening project. In addition to the high cost, and it's not a least cost method, we also would point out that by increasing that risk, you need to take into account and give us sand. And it's like we've got two things going on here in one resolution. I just want to make sure we want to have two things going on in one resolution.
the, that deepening, widening, now, we're not necessarily opposed to it completely as long as we get the sand, is that correct?
So that's what I mean, you're muddling, and
Right.
this, it's all in, but it muddles by putting it all together like this. And I'm
Okay.
wondering if you want two different resolutions.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
specifically about, we know what works, and we just need to keep to it. And we've been spending money on this for years and continue, and it's all historically proven, so we need this. Then another resolution on the deepening project.
And that's normally accomplished, you can put it in the saying now for therefore be it resolved, you can also say, and be it further resolved.
Somehow,
There's,
But I
you wanna
agree with
do
you. It
two-
should be
two
specified.
statements.
Yeah, two specific ones, because I think everyone is getting confused about, every time a newspaper article comes out, it just says Oak Island nourishment, and all these, and you don't know what, then you gotta read down to make sure which project it is, so I agree.
Because when I first read this resolution prior to
Yeah.
the meeting, I felt like we were saying, we're not gonna support, we really don't support project number 3. But we're not really saying that, we're
Right.
saying we have concerns about project
Yes.
number 3. So if it does happen, we absolutely, it's critical that we get to the sand based on the risk to the east end of Holden Beach.
Correct.
Got it.
I'd inject that, now for there be it resolved, it's in the best interest of Holden Beach to continue with beach nourishment efforts. That probably needs to be worded that it talks about navigation maintenance of the Lockwood Folly Inlet that result in beach nourishment as a product. Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about navigation and beach nourishment.
Which one was that, David?
It's the,
last one.
it's
Okay.
The
now
last one, the resolution.
Hey Patty, I was just gonna say, you know, all we're sending you guys is all advisory. So we're gonna be sending this to you, and I'm sure you guys are gonna,
I understand that. I think it would be good if it was as perfect as possible before you send it to 5 people who will then be sitting there at a meeting trying to make it happen quickly because it has to happen quickly. We don't have another month to say, yeah, so
Yeah, I
please
hear
make
you.
it as perfect as possible. Or we'll lose the September meeting, is my
Yeah.
concern.
I agree.
I'm with you.
Just like to mention that the mayor was trying to get your attention and then he just walked out. I don't know what that meant.
He was trying to say something and but then we got over on
I
this.
didn't know. I
He
thought
wanted
you
to
were
add
saying
some.
You're agreeing about maybe not so much the commissioner input or something. I don't know. Just making that up.
I didn't see him.
In that last paragraph, do we put something in about wanting our engineer to be involved with the planning of that number 3? And where they're gonna put all that sand and, you know, if they decide to go ahead with it, that we wanna be involved with it? You know, we talked about, you talked about the Corps going directly to the county instead of coming to the 2 islands individually. Is that where you would put something in about that, making that request? We would like to be involved.
That probably really needs to be handled in the hallway with the staff telling them how it's gonna be. That would be my approach on it.
And I had a question about the next to the last paragraph there, that whereas the cost of the proposed alternative Lockwood Folly Inlet deepening and widening project is not deemed as fiscally achievable in the current operating budget. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, as that, when it was presented to us, it was gonna present that it was happening this year. And we're already past our budget, and we don't have 1.3 million extra dollars laying around. So if it's now been pushed to the next year, that statement would be changed.
And it's also not in the county's budget either.
For
The
this fiscal year.
Whatever the county would be thinking on carving out.
Has the schedule for this officially been pushed to the following year?
I had not heard that till Fran said that this morning, so.
You gotta remember that this is a grant application
Yeah, so
also.
it'll be whenever they approve it.
And they have to, you know, put out a public notice for this. As far as I know, I don't know how they could get away with this without going through a public notice with the Army Corps of Engineers and, you know, through a joint JPN, joint permit notice application, and having SHPO, the marine archaeologists look at it, and
They'll lose their dredge window.
Wildlife Resources Commission, and everybody.
They've got to get a permit to do this.
Yeah, and it did sound like they were trying to say, okay, we've got 1970s authorizations and we're just gonna do that, but I just don't see that happening.
Okay. So basically, the purpose of that whereas is to say, whoa, slow down? Is that what the purpose of that is?
Yeah, and to make sure that the Downriver Beach gets the attention it needs.
Okay.
Now, I'm just curious, if something happened and they did decide you know, if this thing just got expedited and escalated and it happened, let's say in March of next year or something, we would obviously,
You could potentially, yeah, I would say.
we would obviously try and find money for it, right? If we were gonna be
Yeah.
the recipient of the sand.
But then I guess if it did show where they said, well, we're gonna put this sand elsewhere, I guess that the town could potentially, you know, object to the permit.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be to appeal it. I don't think, you know, obviously that it's a pretty extreme reaction, but, you know, the town could definitely appeal that if they want. They should be able to.
We'd want to see some modeling.
That's always.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Dave.
We would want to see some modeling.
Okay.
And then, yeah, possibly,
Slow down.
yeah.
Okay.
Can we change, core to not all caps? Because I don't think
Yes.
that's an acronym.
That's correct, yeah. No, I saw that as well.
Which one are you
The
talking about?
the
The
last
very
line,
last line.
core of zones. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that was.
Back on the front page, the third one from the bottom where they're talking about Oak Island West,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where they said they actually saw a net gain in settlement. Now, is that coming, where is that information
That's our
coming from?
data.
That's your, that's, okay.
That's the town of Holden Beach's data from the last month.
So those are the stations that those are the stations that you.
Yes, we
you're
didn't have
doing.
a station exactly at where their hotspot is, but
Right.
we had stations on either side of it. So
Okay.
and 1,000 feet spacing, so we think we got a pretty good, you know, yes, we got a good idea of what's going on in that beach, you know,
Okay.
specifically.
So, just so I understand process, who,
I was going to say administratively,
yes,
what the staff would propose would be probably the best thing to do is to take these inputs and prep them for the commissioners. you know,
Okay.
To go in, and that way you won't have to get back together, but they'll be, you know, it'll go out for the commissioners' packages, and, you know, if we've missed anything, you know, that would be totally appropriate to say, oh, you missed
So
that.
in an-
But if you've got additional thoughts on it that you maybe want to elaborate outside of the meeting, just send us those comments. But I
Okay.
think that's administratively the best way to do that, is just to let the staff take these inputs, you know, per your inputs today, approve the resolution with your inputs today, with the understanding that the staff will refine the final resolution for presentation to the commissioners. I mean,
Yeah.
that
is it
sounds-
possible for us to take a look at that before it gets included in the commissioner's packet, or no? Is that
Well,
against the
in-
rules?
In order to take any action as the board, you'd have to call another meeting.
Okay,
you know,
all right.
Okay, and then just for that, the one new whereas with accelerating beach loss, I was, loss of beach habitat, loss of everything, and then I was, you know, even just mentioning, you know, you know, these losses may require, or somehow may require the, you know, placement of sandbags, or even result in the loss of structures, which have occurred on the east end. You know, the last structure was lost in the 90s, but the loss of structures, and just kind of put in, that, you know, sandbags and loss of structures are, you know, real results to mismanaging that inlet.
Yeah, we'll bolster this up with that language in addition to what we've talked about, if that's okay with
Yeah.
Yes,
y'all.
yes,
Yeah.
And you should probably move to do that.
okay. we should move?
We have to make a motion to approve this with our comments. Somebody needs to make the motion when we've finished with it.
I make a motion, we move to approve the resolution with our input and that the town staff make the modifications to present to the commissioners.
And I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on that? Any more comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carried unanimously. And I'd like to thank the staff for their really hard work on getting this done and getting it sent so quickly and timely, because this has been so urgent. And Fran, thank you so much for your work on this too.
Absolutely.
The next item that we're gonna move really quickly through is something that we had on the agenda originally that we moved down because it wasn't, this was job one.
Uh-huh.
It was discussion and formulation of long-term beach goals, and what we were talking about was we wanted to get more into this after everyone's had an opportunity to complete their drive. And when Mike and I met with David and Christy, we wanted to, we had some things we wanted to start working on in the future. For example, how to protect and enhance our $15 million investment in Central Reach, such as possible additional plantings, fertilizations, mats to help prevent the trenching. We also wanted to talk about future state of the beach and goals, what we wanted to see there. For example, we want to see a healthy, stable, vegetated dune from inlet to inlet. We want to talk about planning for a future large nourishment, for example, Central Reach 2. That's something that we want to be covering. We want to also do basically a mission statement for this board to further refine what we were doing, and Mike has offered to take that on.
Yeah.
Did you want to speak on that?
Well, you know, and I can email, I've kind of been, I've gone around and I've looked at some other towns, beach towns, and kind of looked at their mission statement. And, you know, a lot of them are very similar. You know, they're basically, I got them here stuck somewhere. But they basically talk about, you know, how they want to use, you know, participate and use all resources, federal, state, local resources, to educate, you know, our residents, you know, as to what we're wanting to do as far as, as she mentioned, keeping the, you know, the vegetation, and if I can find it, I've got, what I was hoping to do is to get, maybe get it out to email this to everybody and let you kind of look at it and get your inputs on it. Okay, if you look at,
They can't talk back to you.
oh, they can't talk back to me, okay.
That's a violation
Okay,
of both of
okay.
That's why I was
Well,
asking about
let me just read a couple that I've printed, okay? And then you can kind of get the gist of where they're going. It says the mission of this county's beach commission is to identify and develop plans, strategies, and programs to restore and maintain wide sandy beaches and dunes through environmentally sensitive beach nourishment, dune management, vegetation management, and sand management principles. The board is committed to obtaining funds at the federal, state, and local level for beach nourishment and storm protection that will prevent and mitigate further erosion of the existing shoreline. The board supports policies and procedures that comply with all federal, state, and local requirements. The board will strive to develop prudent management strategies for sustaining the productivity of economy of our coastal land and resources. The other one that I found, says this beach commission is a collaborative effort for beach preservation activities by the 5 government entities, and this is they've got a little bigger than we are. They're a board of commissioners. The purpose is to educate our property owners regarding beach nourishment and the North Carolina Beach and Inlet Management Plan, support and promote funding at the beach, state, county, and local levels for beach nourishment and storm protection, of our shoreline, encourage maintenance of dunes through sound vegetation management practices on our beaches, and promote the routine maintenance area of the historical and federal navigation channels, including the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway, promote the maintenance and restoration of nesting habitat for endangered sea turtles. What I was gonna do is, wanted to read that to you, and then at the next meeting, I will draw up, a kind of a mission statement, to present to you. That was kind of my plan, because I think it's important that, we have to establish who we are, then we have to establish what we want to do. And I think that, part of our mission statement, somewhere or another, be it with the federal, using the funds or the local funds, we have to be fiscally responsible. And, and come up with ideas to present to the commissioners, that can keep us, fiscally sound moving forward on this. So, but I'll have something for you in the next meeting.
So I have a question. In the minutes from the special meeting, David asked the question about ATM's long-term plan and, our team's long-term plan, and where is is there a boundary there?
Can I wet blanket for a minute?
Sure.
I think that the commissioners, in setting up the board and also in calling that joint meeting, have established the purpose of the board. So anything outside of that, is probably outside of what y'all have been told to do. And the long-term beach plan was a specific thing that came out of that joint meeting that says, get us a long-term beach plan in place. I mean, that was my understanding of the meeting. And,
I think what he's saying is he would take the things that we discussed in our joint meeting and what's in our ordinance and adapting it more into a mission statement. It's more in a more usable fashion.
well, I mean, what you're talking about is two different things. Is that a plan is things that the town is going to do. I think the mission statement is what this board thinks that it's supposed to do. My point being that the commissioners have told you what to do, and they have formed this board in accordance with that ordinance, and the thing that you're supposed to be looking at is developing this long-term plan. Now, my point in the other meeting was that the annual beach management plan, or we really call that an update or monitoring of the plan, that probably needs to be updated, because it was actually, I think the first evolution of it was done a few years ago, and basically what we've been doing is updating it.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that. Are there recommendations in there
Oh,
too that you would say
it's
this is
pretty
part
much-
of our?
It's pretty much soup to nuts. This is what Holden Beach's plans are.
Okay.
But it has as its nexus the, I call it the three legs on the stool: the federal project, the state's intermediary projects, and also our local contribution. So that's a baseline for it. And I would think that the long-term planning pieces of that, where this board could come in, is not only is use that ongoing effort we have from ATM to flesh it out in terms of the physical side of it, with our fiduciary aspects of what the town has, and meld those together. That was my point, not to be a wet blanket.
Okay.
Okay, so that was number 6 on our agenda, so moving on to number 7, discussion and adoption of meeting schedule. Based on what Noel shared with us at our open meetings training, we need to come up with a schedule. We are currently scheduled for the fourth Thursdays of the month at 10 a.m. I wanted to confirm with everyone that that works for your schedule, and if not, is there a time that does work? Does the fourth Thursday at 10 a.m. work?
Well, that was suggested specifically for the staff's convenience, just that it's easier for us to handle in the daytime,
Right,
What day is Thanksgiving?
and also with
that's next.
the normal,
Christmas.
the normal days, you know, the normal meeting schedule.
Now, will that impact you next summer with camp?
Not if we have
An intern.
scheduling, not if we have scheduling in place in order to handle it.
Excuse me for 1 second. Is the September Board of Commissioners meeting on the 18th?
That's correct.
Okay.
And there's probably more than one September 18th meeting too. I believe there's
There's 3 at the moment.
yeah. We can block September the 18th out.
So I'd just like to throw out a couple of options. I don't know how, and I know Richard's not here either.
Right.
I mean, is 10 in the morning an okay time for people? I don't know. I mean, Mike,
Oh, yeah, that's fine with me.
is 10 in the morning okay with you? Does that,
I'm fine. You work,
I do.
so,
Yeah, I mean, I can make it work. However, this next meeting, which, of our board, which I think is a really important one.
yes.
Given that the Board of Commissioners meeting is on the 18th, I am not available on the 26th, and I don't want to miss that meeting. So I would like to make a request to, at a minimum, change our September meeting if that works with everyone else.
Just a question, it would be the 27th, does that make a difference? Did you just call the wrong date? Is like the 26th the date that doesn't work for you, or the 20?
It's, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I meant the 27th. I see
Okay.
that's a Thursday. So the 27th does not work for me. And I'm wondering if there's any benefit, and I'm going to be gone for a block of time. So I need it to either be the week before, or else it just won't happen. So my question to our board is there a benefit to us meeting again prior to the September 18th Board of Commissioners meeting? Could our September meeting, be earlier enough, and is there anything? We could actually, I don't know if this works for everybody or not, but I mean, let's say we met on September 17th, or we could actually look at that resolution and all the writing in it that's gonna be presented, although it'll already be out in the packet, never mind. It'll already be in the packet. Okay, so I would like to make a request that our meeting for September be sometime in the week of September 17th instead of the week of September 24th, if that's possible for everyone.
Would it be possible to create it as a special meeting on the 20th? That's a week prior, Thursday at 10 o'clock? Does that work?
It does?
That works.
Y'all, the Coastal Resources Commission meeting is in Wilmington that
That
day.
day?
On the 20th?
I thought that
Yeah,
was the 19th.
it's a
Yeah, I
two,
thought it
it's a
was
2-day, it's a 2-day event.
So, what's the purpose of that meeting? Can you tell?
The Coastal Resources Commission meeting, the Coastal Resources Commission is the rulemaking body for everything coastal
Yeah.
in North
For the
Carolina.
whole state.
It's 19th and 20th.
And you attend both days?
We have a number of staff that will probably be obligated to it. As a matter of fact, I would suggest that this board might at least look at the agenda. They haven't published the agenda.
And the 19th
when
is
I-
the Brunswick County one, right?
Brunswick
Yeah.
County's the 19th, and then also isn't the League of Municipalities something at the end of that week as well?
That's, yeah, the 19th and 20th is bad.
Can you send out those details
Sure,
and the agendas when they're available?
sure.
I would certainly be curious.
So make sure I'm hearing correctly, there are already meetings on the 19th and 20th, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could
And
be-
the 18th sounds like it's jammed up, right?
Yeah, y'all don't forget about the 18th.
So
That's the 21st.
it sounds like we tackled the most urgent thing on the list, right? So is there a reason to push for it? If not the week before, maybe the week after?
Right,
Or when you do become available?
yeah. I mean, I'm not, I know, it's fine. I mean, everybody doesn't have to change everything for me. I can keep up with it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Well, I think what Patty's saying is they think they're gonna have a meeting prior, correct?
We have 3 different things scheduled for the 8th.
Yeah, y'all do not want to try to schedule something on the 18th. That's just, that ain't gonna work for any
So
of
the
staff.
18th, 19th, and 20th are out.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, my
And the
thought is that
21st.
if we just voted for this, so now this is gonna go to you.
The Friday before.
No, I'm thinking that since we've already voted on this, that it's gonna go to you soon, that you could in theory take it up at your next meeting, which will probably not hold until the 18th. You could take it up at an earlier meeting, correct?
We don't have an earlier meeting
Oh,
right at the moment. No, we have 3 meetings on the 18th.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all on the same day.
They're all on the same day, but nothing prior to the 18th so far.
Nothing scheduled that I'm aware of before that.
Okay. But if you had a special meeting, like to deal with the building fee thing, you could take it up then, right? To adopt the,
I would not recommend
We typically,
I've
taking
seen
this
those
issue
too.
up at any building fee thing that might be scheduled
Okay.
between now and then.
also remember, we typically try to do important things like resolutions.
I hear you, one at a time.
ordinances,
Regular
and
meeting.
the standard meetings so that the public has every opportunity, as much of the public as can come, because it's an evening meeting.
Mhm.
I mean, for heaven's sake, we brought the trash suggestions to a BOCM, even though that's been going for months and months, to make sure the public, the widest part of the public, had the advantage.
Yeah.
So-
okay.
Yeah.
I would actually envision this resolution being read from the podium. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get it out
At a-
there
I
ASAP.
understand. It's,
Yeah, I think
It's
getting it out
it's
there
urgent.
ASAP is, yeah. Everything's ASAP, isn't it?
Well, there's a couple of other things that are, that will be happening simultaneously. Of course, the CRC meeting happens, but then there is also, the MOA meeting that'll be going on in Newbern concurrently as we develop the agenda package. So if something comes out of those MOA meetings, I would ask for the leeway and discretion, if appropriate, to put it in that commissioner's resolution.
Yeah.
If it supports the cause, if
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
pertinent.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I don't know what that might be, but, that's just how I would do it, y'all.
Okay.
So let's just, in light of all that, let's
Yes.
just keep our meeting on the fourth Thursday
Okay.
at 10 o'clock, and we won't adjust September's meeting. I just won't be here. I won't
Okay.
be available for that. And, I'll be at the meeting the week before, and, hopefully if the 3 of you can make it, and maybe Richard can make it,
Okay.
it'll be fine.
Okay, so then we will continue to keep our meetings on the fourth Thursdays at 10 o'clock. We'll make sure-
However, Thanksgiving and Christmas both fall
Correct.
on the fourth Thursday. So
Okay,
that will be
so-
2 months at the end of the year that we will need to modify the schedule for, to have a November and a December meeting.
Okay, so then for
Thank you.
November, would you guys be adverse to moving November to November the 15th?
Could we defer that discussion,
Yeah.
because I have staff that hasn't started school next week, so they don't know what their calendars are gonna
Absolutely.
be like. Can we just,
Next month?
with the understanding that there's a desire to accommodate the Christmas and Thanksgiving schedules, but we don't want to cancel the meetings, is that fair enough?
With everyone else's permission, we'll table that to next month.
I will add that I believe that November 15th, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I think that I'm pretty sure that the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway Conference is in Charleston.
Okay.
I think Tuesday and Wednesday, the
Yeah.
13th and 14th is NC Byways in Wrightsville Beach, and then the 15th and 16th is the AIWW, and I did plan to go to both of those, so I'm not saying that it can't happen if I'm not here, but then David's it, so.
Okay. Okay, we will table our meeting schedule until next month.
Well, can I ask this? In general, the fourth Thursday at 10 a.m. is it with an accommodation for the 2 winter holidays?
Right.
Correct.
That's what we'll talk about. Okay, all right.
Moving on the agenda, Inlet and Beach Protection Board announcements and consensus of the short report to the Board of Commissioners. Okay, for announcements, I just wanted to announce to make sure that everyone is aware of that the easiest way to keep up with the, what's kind of happening in the beach world is that Carteret County's Beach News. Does everyone subscribe to that? Do you subscribe to it?
No.
Okay, I
Can
will
you
get
send
you
those
the, I
details
will,
out?
I will send those to you. That the Brunswick Shoreline Protection Meeting is September the 19th, and I was gonna ask who was planning to attend.
The Brunswick Shoreline Protection Meeting
Right.
is where on the 19th?
At the county, at the complex.
David
I can't hear what
Sandifer,
you're saying.
it's the David Sandifer Conference Room, the main.
Oh,
Commissioners'
at the county,
chambers. Uh-huh,
okay.
yes.
And that's on the 19th?
And I want to say that that's 10 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah.
Popular time?
The reason I was asking is, do we need to do have Heather do a quorum
Quorum notice?
Did you get anybody that say they're planning to attend?
That's kind of what I was asking. Is anybody planning to
I'm,
attend? I'll
I'm
go.
planning on getting there, yeah.
I think it would be good for y'all to go. You know,
I was
just-
going,
mean, it's another,
so,
I just need to check something, but my intention is to go.
okay. So there's 3 right there, so I guess we need to,
we'll do the
if it needs
potential
to be
for a
done,
quorum.
there
Yeah.
you go.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'll confirm one way or the other, like, after this
Well,
meeting.
and we're just, the way that that's verbalized is that the potential for a quorum exists. you know,
Yes.
And so if somebody,
Doesn't show
go,
up
it's
or
fine.
something, it's okay. All right.
Okay, and now, we need to have a consensus of a short report to the Board of Commissioners. So, for a draft memo, I kind of drafted a short memo. So let me read it to you and make sure we all agree with this.
Vicki, may I make one announcement first?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody else have them too? Feel free.
Just the NC byways that I mentioned in November. I know that's a couple months out, but if people hadn't decided about attending or are planning to attend, the town is gonna sponsor one of the network breaks, in one of the mornings. And so as soon as I get confirmation on which one of those we are responsible for, I can send that out in case people can only attend one day and would like to go the day of the town sponsoring.
Okay. What date again? Could you repeat that?
It's November 13th and 14th, I believe. Let me pull up an email real quick.
Did you say that was at
November
Wrightsville?
13th and 14th, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
And one of those, we're gonna sponsor one of the network breaks.
Where'd you get that?
Christie sent it, emailed it.
Did she email that to all of us?
I got- I
Like
got
the
one
next week
question.
after our board meeting.
Okay, I have to go find
Maybe could you resend that then? Because Rhonda didn't send
We'll
that.
just-
I may,
We'll give you a
Okay.
copy of it.
Thank you.
I got one quick question.
Yes.
I was sitting here noticing, it says that the Coastal Resources Commission is meeting September 19th and 20th in New Hanover County, and then you've got the 19th for the Brunswick Shoreline Protection. I mean, do we need to have someone at, I mean, I know we're gonna have somebody.
Should we divide and
Should we
conquer?
divide it and have someone at the other meeting? 'Cause, I mean, yeah, you know more about what that is than I do.
probably want to look at the agenda
Okay.
first for
Okay.
that, because it may be something that is so esoteric and it's only applies to
Okay,
Dare
okay.
County. But it's a good point. Probably yes. You
Okay.
want to divide and conquer.
Okay.
We always try to get a staff person there, but just because of the new nature of this board, it would be great, to probably have some of y'all there.
Okay, okay.
And gosh, don't hold me to this, but it might even be, worthwhile to give a little report back to this board, say in the
At the
October
next meeting,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, the October,
Okay.
well, the September, yeah, okay, that's right, it's the fourth, yeah.
The one I
To,
wanted
you know, to maybe describe the experience or what you saw. And I'd also like to point out that it's the Coastal Resources Commission meeting, but also right before that or the same day in the morning of the CRC meeting, the Coastal Resources Advisory Committee meeting meets, and that's really the scientific panel. And that may have some eye-opening education value to go in and just sitting and looking at that. But they also publish a separate agenda on what they look at. So we can probably coordinate that offline if you wish.
Okay.
Okay.
They always publish that agenda on that beach news.
It's,
In the Carteret
it's actually
County Beach
published,
News? Okay.
it's actually published on the DEQ website. And depending on, you know, who's got what on the agenda is kind of how soon it gets out. I don't know if it's out now or not. Sometimes they get it out 6 weeks ahead of time. Sometimes, you know, it's pretty short notice. It just depends on what's on that agenda.
Okay. Any other questions or announcements? Okay. So then we need to agree on this consensus, so let me read it to you. And because I think it's easier to have something that we're gonna talk, and we can edit, than it is to me just saying, okay, so what do you guys wanna say? I wrote up a little memo, and then we'll just edit this, if that's all okay with you guys.
And this is a memo to the Board of
Right,
Commissioners.
when they set up our board, they wanted to have they wanted us to report back to them each month when we met.
Okay.
And so if you remember when, well, you weren't there, but when we met, we were trying to figure out how to do that.
How
So
to do that and how to get it included in the Commissioner's packet.
Right, so the idea was we would come up with a little memo that we would send, and we would all agree on the memo at the end of the meeting. And so here's the memo, and here's the draft that I kind of came up with, and,
Okay. Even before the meeting. You knew what we were gonna talk about, huh?
I could guess.
Okay, go ahead.
The Inlet and Beach Protection Board met August 23rd, and the following issues were addressed. Lockwood Valley Inlet dredging. In concurrence with staff, after discussion and careful consideration, the IPBB has asked that the attached draft resolution be placed on your September agenda for your consideration. As stated in the resolution, dredging of the inlet and placement of the sand on Holden Beach is of the utmost importance, and we feel that the issue cannot wait to be addressed in the annual beach monitoring report. The point being that in the minutes that we just approved, we kind of said we were gonna wait and address it in the annual beach monitoring report, so I think we've all kind of matured in our thinking and decided, no, we don't wanna go there. The next thing in the memo says, annual beach monitoring report. The group also heard from the town's beach engineer, Fran Way, on the state of the beach and received his input on the Lockwood Folly situation. More details will be available as the annual beach monitoring report is completed. Then future plans. The board also made plans for future meetings and the goals discussed at the joint meeting. And that's all I put. Is there anything else we should add, or should we change this? What else would you like to include?
I mean, you can put more detail in there, but it basically covers the bulk of what we discussed today.
I am totally open to change.
You want anything to add, Mike, to that?
No.
I mean, we can talk about meeting schedules,
Yeah.
but there's no point in that, I don't think.
Nope, looks good as is, I think.
Sounds good to me, Vicky.
Is this kind of what you guys were looking for?
I mean, the resolution is going to really be the most important thing that we include in your packet.
These are early meetings. There's not a whole lot of topics going on that all have meat, so, you know, starting little and focusing on what you did,
It's fine.
I think it's representative of what happened today, to let us know what's coming, what's important. I think as you move forward, further along, and you've got 3 or 4 big things going in a meeting, it'll be more detailed.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep,
So see how it plays out in the next meeting.
okay.
I've already violated my rule.
I know.
speaking in
Me too,
meetings
but,
twice, and I refuse to speak any further, and in the future, I will not speak. So it's up to you. I don't want to influence or in some way affect what you people who are on the board, giving your time. I want your opinion. I don't want my opinion regurgitated. Up to you to make it and send it.
Okay.
And I appreciate it.
okay.
I think that your memo covers the heart of what we discussed today, so I am fine with it the way it is.
David,
Might you want to add on to that about the review of upcoming other related meetings and board members' attendance and
you can
presence?
add that.
That was kind of what I meant about scheduled meetings. I didn't really mean about our scheduled meeting, but the outside, the external
Yeah.
meetings too.
Okay.
Some comment that there was discussion about that, and those of us that can are planning to attend,
Indicated
Yes.
intent to attend.
intent to attend.
Internal and external
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, so the board also made plans for future, insert in there, internal and external meetings?
Internal and external meetings and intended participation in those.
The only other thing I think they might be interested in is more of a concrete, when is Fran's report coming? And I think we said October timeframe, just giving them
Right.
that little tidbit might be,
That's sort of part of the town
they kind of ask.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But he did tell us that this week.
What's
the s-
that?
You know, what's the,
Yeah.
He
He
did tell
did
Matt
tell
they're
Matt.
making it.
Yeah.
At the meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah, he was at our meeting
DOC.
Tuesday, remember, so he-
Right,
did
he
say-
just did that,
Yes,
yes,
he did just-
yeah,
Okay. Is there
Okay.
anything else we want to add? Clarify?
no, I think we're good.
Okay. Great, so if somebody wants to make a motion to approve that, then that'd be great.
I'll make a motion.
I
We
second.
approve it.
Mike made the
on-
motion and I second. To
All those
approve.
in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried?
Yes.
Okay, great.
so how are we updating the resolutions? Are you using
We're
your
gonna-
notes to
yes,
update
we're
them?
gonna-
You don't need my doodles,
If
right?
you'd like to share those with us, it would
I
probably
don't,
be
I
helpful.
noticed everybody was taking notes, so I didn't really go deep
Yeah.
Yeah.
with my
So we can
notes.
individually send
Just-
emails to you and Christie and just say, this is what we
If,
understood,
if you'd like,
if we'd like to.
that'd be fine.
But you
If-
guys got the gist of what we said.
Yeah, if you've got the doodles you want to share with us, that's fine.
Okay,
You probably have better doodles.
okay.
Okay, that is everything that I had on the agenda. Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we adjourn?
So on the long-term plan, Mike is taking the action to next steps with that? It'll come back to us with something a little more concrete, whether it's a mission statement.
Not
whether
on the
you're-
actual beach plan, because we don't,
We're gonna
that's what we're gonna have to be working on.
Right, a long-term beach plan.
try tying it back to
Right.
the long-term beach plan in our ordinance and. it
Okay,
set
because
us up and-
I read those the last set of notes, and it seemed like the commissioners were spewing out action items,
Yeah.
and so that's where we'll,
That's what we're
okay.
gonna look at, yeah.
So nothing I can do to help with that.
Well, I'll think of something.
Okay.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
okay. I'm gonna call us adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.